Shot and killed in Gwinnett County has been identified as an Atlanta rapper. Investigators say the victim was 33-year-old Tevin Hood, also known as T Hood. He was best known for his songs Ready to Go and Percolator. Now, he posted on social media just weeks ago promoting a concert in Atlanta. Investigators say the shooting stemmed from an argument at a house in unincorporated Snellville on Friday night. And officers say they detained a person at that home but have not yet announced any arrests.
One moment they were in love. The next, he was gone. Rising rapper T Hood shot dead in what police call a domestic dispute. But was it self-defense or a cold-blooded setup by the woman he trusted most? Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the fight, the family, and the fatal shots that have Atlanta talking. The city of Atlanta woke up to a shock that felt like a punch to the chest. The kind of news that makes your phone blow up before your alarm even goes off. Word spread fast that rapper T Hood, a rising name with a sound that was finally getting traction beyond the local scene, had been shot and killed. It wasn't just the loss that had everyone talking. It was the reason behind it, the whispers about how it all went down, and the messy trail it left behind. Reports quickly tied the tragedy to a domestic dispute, but this wasn't just any couple in any neighborhood. This story had reality TV royalty tangled right in the middle. T Hood's girlfriend wasn't just a random name. She was Frosty K, the daughter of Kirk Frost and Rasheeda Frost, two of the most recognizable faces from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. That family name alone was enough to set social media on fire. People didn't wait for police statements, official reports, or court documents. They jumped straight to theories, accusations, and conspiracy threads. Before the sun was even fully up, the internet had already picked sides, and most of those fingers were pointing straight at Frosty K. At first, the accusations were raw and blunt. She set him up. She's the reason he's gone. She called somebody to do it. Screenshots, old videos, and out-of-context clips started flying across timelines as proof. Frosty K, seeing her name and face being dragged into the center of a murder narrative, made a choice that people close to her told her not to make. She spoke up. She opened her phone, logged into Instagram, and poured out a statement straight from her emotions. In it, she wrote about losing the man she loved, the man she woke up next to every night. She said her mind was spinning, her heart was breaking, and on top of that grief, she was under attack by strangers who didn't know the truth. She asked for privacy, but she also admitted she couldn't stay silent when such a damaging picture of her was being painted. In her words, she didn't ask for this, she didn't want this, and she didn't call for anyone to harm him. She was, in her own way, trying to grieve and defend herself at the same time, a position that left her feeling like she was fighting two battles. Her posts didn't stop there. She came back with another message, one that sounded even more frustrated. She told people to stop listening to stories from those who weren't there. She called the rumors false narratives, lies that were only making a painful situation worse. She said she and T Hood were one, that they always got through their issues together, and that she loved him with her whole heart. She denied ever calling her brothers or anyone else to handle him. She stressed that she never involved her family in their private business, and when things got tense, she called no one but his mother. The post was emotional, unpolished, and raw, but it made one thing clear. In her mind, she was being wrongfully accused. She said T Hood was still healing from previous gunshot wounds, that they handled their conflicts in private, and that whatever happened that night was never part of any plan she made. Her words painted herself as a woman blindsided by tragedy, not the mastermind of it, but not everyone was buying it. While Frosty K was using her phone to plead her innocence, there was another voice growing louder on the other side. A voice that belonged to someone who wasn't willing to accept her version of events. T Hood's sister wasn't just skeptical, she was furious. In her eyes, there was nothing complicated about what had happened. She went on Instagram, tagged Frosty K directly, and laid out her accusation without sugarcoating anything. "You set my brother up. You had your people kill him. This is on you." The words hit hard, and they were followed by even more detail. She claimed that Frosty K's own brothers were the ones responsible for the shooting. Not some stranger, not some random intruder, but family members connected directly to the woman T Hood had been with. She said her brother had been shot multiple times in the back, the stomach, the chest, and that afterward, There was an effort to clean things up and hide the people involved before the police arrived. The accusations didn't stop with words. T. Hood's sister posted videos and screenshots to back up her claims. One clip showed a man, identified as one of Frosty K's brothers, complaining about his ankle hurting right after the shooting, a detail that, in her eyes, tied him to the scene. She said one brother had left before police showed up, while the other stayed behind but was hidden away to avoid immediate arrest. In her posts, she described this as a clear setup, an act of betrayal that ended with her brother dead and no one taking responsibility. To her, this wasn't a misunderstanding or an accident. It was a deliberate act, and she wanted justice. As the social media war played out, official reports from the police began to emerge, and they told a story that didn't exactly match either side perfectly. According to investigators, the incident began as a domestic dispute between T. Hood and Frosty K. During that argument, the police said the woman suffered injuries. At some point, one of her brothers either arrived at the home or was already there, and that's when things escalated. The police confirmed that this brother, identified publicly only after the arrest, had stayed at the scene and was cooperating with the investigation. They also mentioned something that shifted the tone of the case. There was a possibility the shooting could be classified as self-defense. That meant that, in the eyes of law enforcement, the brother might have believed he was protecting Frosty K from harm. This is where the case became more than just a family versus family argument, and turned into a question of perception and law. If the shooting was truly in self-defense, the narrative would change completely. It wouldn't be about a woman plotting against her boyfriend, but about a family member reacting in the heat of the moment to protect someone they loved. But self-defense is tricky. It depends on timing, intent, and whether the force used was truly necessary. And when someone is shot multiple times, people naturally start to question whether it was protection or punishment. That's why, even as police statements came out, the arguments online didn't slow down. Supporters of T. Hood's sister insisted that shooting someone in the back wasn't self-defense. It was execution. On the other side, supporters of Frosty K argued that none of them were in the room, and none of them saw what happened. So, no one could speak with certainty. Meanwhile, old patterns were being brought into the conversation. The way domestic arguments can spiral, the way family members sometimes get involved thinking they're helping, and the way those decisions can have life or death consequences. People shared their own stories. Brothers and cousins stepping in during fights, sometimes making things better, but sometimes making them worse. The police even addressed it in statements, noting how quickly domestic disputes can turn violent once outside family members get involved. They didn't confirm every detail being thrown around online, but they were clear on a few things. The argument happened, Frosty K was hurt during it, the brother was there, and T. Hood ended up dead. Everything else, intent, motive, who threw the first blow, who escalated it, was still under investigation. As the days went on, the divide between the two sides only grew wider. Every new piece of information was treated like a fresh weapon in an already ugly war. Supporters of T. Hood clung tightly to the idea that his death was the result of betrayal, that Frosty K had let her brothers handle an argument in the most extreme way possible. On the other side, Frosty K's defenders pointed to the official line from police, that this was a domestic dispute where she was injured, that her brother stepped in, and that what happened afterward could fall under self-defense. For outsiders, watching the story unfold online, the truth was hard to see through the fog of grief, anger, and speculation. But for those involved, it wasn't just a headline. It was the loss of a son, a brother, a partner. The Gwinnett County Police reports described a timeline that was both simple and complicated. On paper, it went like this. An argument at a house on Lee Road between T. Hood and Frosty K. The disagreement turned physical, leaving Frosty K with injuries. At some point, her brother, whether already there or arriving after, got involved. The situation escalated further. The brother, believing his sister was in danger, fired shots that struck T. Hood multiple times. The shooter stayed at the scene and spoke to officers when they arrived. There was also a witness present who gave a statement. That account lined up with the brothers' cooperation, which is why police didn't immediately announce murder charges. Instead, they said the case could be considered self-defense depending on the final review from the district attorney. But self-defense in theory and self-defense in the court of public opinion are two different things. For T. Hood's sister, there was no justification that could make sense of 5 bullets hitting her brother, especially shots to the back and chest. She believed this wasn't about saving Frosty K, but about punishing T. Hood for the fight they had. She accused the family of hiding the shooter, cleaning up the scene, and delaying justice. And every time she posted, her anger was raw and unfiltered. Her grief came through in every sentence, as did her demand for accountability. The situation also put Kirk Frost and Rasheeda Frost under unwanted spotlight. Even though neither of them had been anywhere near the scene, their names were dragged through headlines and hashtags simply because of who they were and who their daughter was. Some fans of Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta went after them directly, blaming them as if they had control over their adult children's choices. Others defended them, pointing out that they were dealing with a tragedy too, even if from a different angle. In interviews and comment sections, people debated whether parents should be held responsible for the actions of grown children. The answer was never unanimous. In the middle of it all, the narrator's voice in the retelling of events tried to pull back from the chaos and focus on a bigger point, one that went beyond just this case. It was a warning about how dangerous it can be to involve family members in heated relationship fights. Many people could relate to the scenario. A sister calls her brothers in the middle of an argument. Emotions are running high, and those brothers rush in ready to protect her without knowing the full story. Sometimes it ends with a stern talk and a ride home. Other times, it ends with fists thrown. And in the worst cases, like this one, it ends with gunshots and a permanent loss that no one can undo. The tragedy of T. Hood's death wasn't just that a young man's life ended, but that it ended in a way where the truth will always be debated. Was it an act of defense? Was it an unnecessary escalation? Was it the result of long-simmering tension between the couple that finally boiled over? The police investigation would eventually provide its official conclusion, but for the families involved, no verdict could erase the pain. T. Hood's sister would still see her brother's absence every day, and Frosty K would still carry the memory of losing her partner while being blamed for it. And so, the case became more than just another tragic headline. It became a cautionary tale about love, anger, loyalty, and the fine line between protection and destruction. It showed how quickly a private disagreement could explode into a public disaster, especially when it involves people with recognizable names. And for the fans, neighbors, and strangers watching from a distance, it was a reminder that in the heat of an argument, one wrong move can change lives forever. In the end, both families were left with a hole that no amount of defending, accusing, or explaining could fill. The only certain thing left in the wreckage was that T. Hood was gone, and nothing would ever be the same again.